It was Valentine's evening, and I found myself enjoying a romantic dinner with Henry, a man who had recently entered my life. The restaurant we had chosen was exceptionally upscale, far beyond my usual means, making the experience all the more flattering. Additionally, I've always been receptive to compliments, so being showered with them added to the evening's charm. As Henry was going on about vacations, islands, and boats, I couldn't help but notice a man at the opposite side of the restaurant staring at us as I looked past Henry's shoulders. I thought maybe for a moment it wasn't us he was gazing at, but when I had made eye contact, he gave a little smirk. "Trisha, what do you think?" Henry asked as my attention focused back to him. "Yeah, sounds great," I responded. As I was taking a sip of the Chardonnay that was served, I noticed the man sitting alone earlier had made his way out of the restaurant. When he left, he glanced over at me just before heading out the door. "Okay, sorry to keep you waiting," Henry said as he returned from the restroom. I smiled and we continued our date. As we wrapped up our drinks and meal, we decided to stroll through Central Park. Stepping out of the warm restaurant into the chilly winter air, I couldn't help but notice the man again from the restaurant across the street, his gaze fixed on us. "Henry, that man has been staring at us a lot this evening," I mentioned, directing Henry's attention toward him. The man quickly averted his gaze and hurried off, keeping his head low as Henry glanced in his direction. "Seems like he's leaving now," Henry observed in response. Our limousine pulled up and we set off towards the park. During the journey, I couldn't help but observe a significant change in Henry's usual talkative behavior. His pace of drinking seemed to accelerate, causing a slight unease to creep in. In a gentle gesture, I suggested he pace himself and save some for later. Suddenly, the vehicle tailing us flicked on its high beams, casting a blinding light even through the thick tint of our windows. The repeated flashing on and off of the lights heightened the tension. What could they possibly want? I inquired, puzzled. Henry remained silent, his eyes fixed on the flashing lights. Following that, the car began to emit a series of honks, seemingly trying to convey a message. "Henry, what's happening?" I inquired once more, feeling my anxiety mounting. "I'm not sure," he simply replied, his uncertainty adding to my unease. Henry advised the driver to maintain our course. Soon, the car pulled up alongside us, revealing a few individuals sporting unusual masks. Upon closer inspection, they appeared to resemble Venetian-style masks. Persistently questioning Henry, I noticed his expression morph into one of profound worry and nervousness. He avoided eye contact, his head shaking in denial. Meanwhile, the eerie men in the masks signaled for our driver to stop. "I don't want any trouble," as he maneuvered the limousine to the side of the street. My thoughts raced frantically as the situation escalated at an alarming pace. I felt incredibly vulnerable as I was powerless in the situation. "Henry," I heard the chilling call of one of the masked men. "What do they want?" I demanded, my voice filled with urgency. In the front seat, the driver sat frozen, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Just as Henry prepared to respond, one of the men pulled out a gun and held it up to his mask, leaving us with no choice but to confront the imminent danger. Another man emerged and approached the driver, tapping on the window with the gun. I started reaching for the door handle just in case I needed to make a swift run for it. Although his words were indistinct, I could hear him just enough instructing, "Open the door and get out," as the driver complied. Henry forcefully pulled me aside, grasping my arms, as he hurried towards the door without uttering a word. Feeling bewildered, I stood unsure of what action to take amidst the presence of armed masked men and my panicking date. As the locks were released, the door on my side swung open, prompting me to raise my arms and cry out, "Please, I have no idea what's going on," as the man peered into the car while the door was opening. I caught sight of Henry swiftly opening the door on the opposite side and bolting away. As the man reached out to grasp me, I quickly shifted to the other side, only to be met by another man who grabbed a hold of me and forcefully pulled me out. Frantically, I began kicking and screaming in protest. Despite the presence of others nearby, they chose to distance themselves, unwilling to intervene in the unfolding situation. merely observing from afar. As the man was grappling me, I heard his voice muffled through the mask ask, "Where's your ID?" I shouted back, "In my purse. It's in the car." The man then gestured with a head nod motion for another to search it. I noticed that Henry was clear gone. More people were starting to gather in the distance. I remember praying for the police to arrive. After rifling through my bag and briefly examining my ID, one of the men commented, "She's nobody." With a tightening grip, the man holding me forced my face to meet his beneath the ominous mask. Peering into his eyes, I heard him apologize in a manner marked by elegance. "My apologies, madam." He then released his grip. His eyes remained fixed on me momentarily as I stood in shock. Then, he turned on his heel and retraced his steps towards the vehicle. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Despite feeling the threat was reduced, and after the odd sincerity in the man's apology, the flood of emotions were still overwhelming. Finally, some came to assist me as I sat there, weeping in the biting chill of the midwinter night. A week later, I discovered a letter that piqued my interest. Inside the envelope was a simple message. One side depicted a Venetian mask, while the other contained an address and a password. Although I never made the journey to the specified location, the curiosity it sparked remained with me. Furthermore, I couldn't shake off the thought of what had become of Henry, presuming he had likely encountered his fate, facing off against the mysterious masked individuals.